and I want to go through that. So what we're looking at is this underbelly, this other world that has run parallel, so parallel with normal life. But again, it's covert, it's allegorical, so things will be hidden, in plain sight.
Welcome back to the channel, and in this video we're going to be exploring the questions you wanted to ask Lancashire Police in the Nicola Bulley case and why they will never be answered. We will have a look at testimonies from ex-Metropolitan Police Officer John Wedger, who will state clearly his experience of dealing and finding bodies within waters of the River Thames, and gives his own explanation of what he thought happened in the Nicola Bulley case. I also thought that this video would help in quashing any queries or doubts of who the Freemasons are, and that they are not just people of an elderly age in a village hall wearing aprons. A few comments I had were people that said family members were in the Freemasons, yet they hadn't killed anybody. I also had other comments as such, "You're harassing the Freemasons," which I found to be quite entertaining, considering I'm not really harassing anybody, but more informing the public of traditions and numerology. So without further delay, let's jump straight into the video.
And it's this lady in the north in Lancashire that went missing and turned up in the river dead. Is it Nicola Bulley?
Yes. What do you think about her?
Right. Well, I worked on a unit. Again, I worked very closely with the world's #1 expert on identification of bodies in an aquatic environment. So I worked on the River Thames and the River Police for a few years, and I worked with a guy, and he was the dead body identification officer for all the bodies that turned up in the Thames. And bear in mind, the River Thames, especially in London, dishes up more dead bodies than any other policing area put together. One a week, and suspicious death, one a week. You wouldn't get any other police unit in the UK. You'd probably struggle in a busy part of the world to get one a week. Maybe in Mexico or somewhere like that, but you get one a week, suspicious death. And these are bodies that have been in the Thames. Thames is a tidal waterway, and when the bodies are given up, they do come to the surface. They are badly distorted and mutilated, and it's very, very difficult to find causation of death. Very, almost impossible. Water destroys the DNA, so if there is DNA in the body and things like that, it's ruined. Now, what happens is the body floats twice. So initially it will float, and then it will sink. It will quickly sink. So it'll be floating for a little while, and then it will go under. Depending on the depth of the river, the Thames is quite a deep river in mid channel. So you could get central London. There are parts where you'll get 10 metres. The body will be knocked around by eddy currents and also just by general knocking about. But because it's tidal, it will ebb and it will flow, right? So it will flow out to sea, which all rivers flow, but not all rivers ebb. Ebb means when the tide comes in, it goes back. So on the whole, there'll be more pressure on a flow because it's naturally going that way. So a tide will come in and tide will go out. So when it goes out, it will go out with a flow behind it. But when it comes in, it is fighting the flow, if it means. So within about 10 metres of where a body goes in, that's where it will stay on the whole. And it will do this. And aquatic life will eat it. So you'll get crabs, shrimp, eels, and fish which generally eat it, so it will get distorted. The body will bloat. White people go black, and black people go white. So black people, their skin pigment peels off, leaving a white layer, and white people, their skin goes black. And then when the gases get to a critical point, and it's usually determined by weather. If it's cold, the gases build up slowly. When it warms up, they accelerate, and up the body comes. And they're putrid, and there's not much you can make out of them. Someone, even if they're skinny, there'll be this balloon of a hair will be missing, their eyes will be bulging. It's an appalling sight. The stench is the most unbelievable smell you've ever had in your life. I I've pulled a lot of bodies out. Sometimes I pulled one out and the arm come off it. So I stood there holding a dead arm once, like, with a jacket, something like out of a zombie film. And so this girl Nicola was found. Was it 25 days after she went in? The River Wire is tidal when you go, I think, towards Fleetwood, Blackpool, that area. I think that's where it goes into the sea. North Lancashire. Where she went in, I don't know it, but the pictures, it doesn't look like a particularly big river. It looks fast flowing. The time of year, there's a lot of water, and we had a lot of water and rain. So, and it was cold, very cold, partly, So that body may well have been kept down, but I don't think it's that deep. So, I think you'd struggle to have that body underwater for a long time there.
During one of John Wedger's interviews and testimonies, he states that these people like to show things in plain sight. It is not until during one of the interviews, which was with Sky News and that with Emma White, the friend of Nicola Bulley, that we found out and discovered that there was a milestone and what this meant.
Joined by a good friend of Nicola's, Emma White. Good to see you again, Emma. We keep calling her Nicola. You knew her as Nikki, of course.
Yeah.
Your thoughts, I'm interested in your thoughts after that update from police yesterday. When you heard what the police had to say, what went through your mind?
Let's just take you back to yesterday. So yesterday was a 7-day milestone. It was
found a mile away. Again, I've not got much comment on that because I don't know the river and it's a lot of meanders in it. Would it have made a mile? I'm not sure. It's a long way, a mile, by the look of it, where she's gone in. She might have, from what we've been told, again, you only go on what you've been told. She was taking, she was depressed and a heavy alcohol user. Maybe she's tried to kill herself, taking tablets or something, and gone into the water and off she's gone for a swim, and it's overcome her, and which may have been her intention. I don't know. She might have swum.
What do you think, though? What's your gut instinct on her?
Well. The weird stuff about that is, why did the cadaver dogs not pick it up? Because they're incredibly sensitive animals. I mean, I think they're brilliant. The canine support units the police have got, and their noses are good. I mean, I knew a dog could pick up the scent of cannabis nearly 100 metres away. Not smoked cannabis, stored cannabis. It was that good. So a rotting corpse, it's going to stink. It is going to stink. A waterborne one as well. That's going to be minging. She was found in reeds, so it wasn't really in water. How did she get in them reeds for a start? I don't know. I mean, did the river flood that high that allowed for that? Again, we've not been given that sort of information, so we don't know, right? But a mile away from where she's allegedly gone in, yes, she would have gone downriver because it was non-tidal, so it would have taken her that way. What happened? I don't know. I really don't know. It's difficult. It seems odd that she was in the reeds.
What's the official story? Like, what's the official account? What do you think? What are they telling us? I
think it looks like they're erring on suicide.
Yeah.
But then there's things that the husband was into acting and her best friend was in the same acting agency or something. So there's all that acting sort of connection. But the one thing that really sticks in my throat about this was that the police brought in a contractor, right, called Peter Fording. I've had not a lot, bits of communication with Peter because I was setting up a group of professionals to look for missing people, and Pete was put my way, and there has been a little bit of audit trail between me and Peter in the past. Nothing big, but at some point I was hoping to link in with him. Not now, I'm not really interested because I moved away from all that stuff now, but back then, about 2 years ago, yeah, there was, I knew a lot of people he knew, and I knew a guy that worked on his team, and these are a lot of them ex-professionals. He's got a lot of ex-military, a lot of ex-police that work for him, specialists, and he's set himself up with this incredible network and very well facilitated. So he had helicopter, he had dive teams, he had rib boats, he had everything. He was kitted out, ready to go. There's another guy I know. I'm not going to name him because I've not got his permission, but he's set himself up as the number one expert for sniffer dogs, and has done a lot of good work for the Moors murders and all sorts of things. And especially in Northern Ireland, he's found an incredible amount of bodies. I think there's something like 50 bodies went missing, and he found 49 of them. Police never, he did. And he's an expert, and he's done stuff with me in the past. This guy's a really lovely guy, and he did stuff with Peter. So between the two of them, they're pretty much cornering the market on this. And of course, they can't be silenced, right? Whereas the police, as I know, if you're going somewhere you shouldn't go, you know, the old boy network will come in and say, you're not doing it. Senior officers will shut you up. And if they don't shut you up, they'll fuck you up, right? But they can't do that to Peter Fording. And they can't do it to these other people. So they bring Peter Fording in, and he does make a bold comment, she's not in the water. Now, that's based on what he's been told and what he knows. So is he right or is he wrong in saying that? Well, he was justified in saying it because, you know, that's his experience and that's information he's given. And let's not forget, it's a police's job. It's Lancashire Police's job, not his job. It's their screw up, not his. But when it all went wrong and they did find the body in the river, albeit in the reeded area, right? So he's right in saying it's not in the river because literally it's not, but technically it probably is. He gets the blame and he gets attacked so massively, this guy. He is being attacked by the press, by these TV talk shows, and they're mullering him. He's getting boom, 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 boom. And I said to my mate, they're doing a hatchet job on him. This seems like he's been set up, and it had a horrible vibe to it, what they were doing to this.
He's getting too good at his job, basically.
Yeah, and he's not accountable to the system. He's independent. And I said they're going to screw him, they're going to F him up. And the next week it came out in the press, Peter Fording has been removed from the Specialist Search Register. And I thought, there you go. They
can't have it. They can't have someone getting too close to the truth.
No, they can't.
John Wedger describes the hatchet job that was taken on Peter Fording, the diving specialist in the Nicola Bulley case. When I looked into doing some research into biblical terms and the Hebrew Bible, I remember someone being mentioned called Peter, who later went on to be known as Saint Peter. When I did some research while doing this video, I wanted to know whether there had been any sacrifices of any of the 12 disciples. When I researched this, the result was shocking. The only person out of the 12 disciples that was sacrificed was Peter.
There's a lot of masonry.
Which I'd like to tap on a little bit.
Masonry has a massive steer. Well, it did back then.
Should we tangent off into that quickly, or did you want to bring it around? Do you know tie the loop on what you were?
Well, I never encountered Mason. I didn't know what masonry was, to be honest. I'd heard of them.
Yeah.
And they used to call them the Larrys, the Larry Graysons, the Masons, and it would be mentioned, and it was never really until I started working with older coppers, and they'd say, "Oh, he's in my lodge," and I went, "What's that mean?" And then I started knowing about it, and then I ended up on a specialist department. I specialised quite a lot, which was brilliant. Some people never specialise. Some do it once. I did it many times, and I definitely saw it as a way forward. I loved it, going on to specialist departments. But masonry was endemic, absolutely endemic in them. And they all knew each other. They were all connected with each other. People would get jobs, and you wouldn't know how.
They'd be fast-tracked.
Always. You know, and they'd be picked for this and picked for that. And they were useless, inept, moronic, lazy, whatever, you know. And it was never really done on merit in the police. I never saw people really promoted on merit. There were those that did, but they had to work hard. I was one of them. I had to work hard for what I got. But I was just very good at policing. I was just naturally good at it. Yeah. Some people are naturally good at gymnastics. Some are naturally good boxers. I was good at that, and it caused a lot of jealousy. And then one day I went for a job, and this was the first time I've been silenced. I was tracking down transient paedophiles that were living on canal boats, and it was a cracking number. And a lot of the older lads were all Masons. This was the first time I started seeing it, and a few of them would have there'd be a ring on one finger there. One used to wear a watch with all like what's the Jewish language?
Hebrew. Yeah.
Hebrew, because it's all to do with Solomon. There's a lot.
Yeah, that's right.
Jewish
Star of
connections to
David, isn't it?
Yeah, and it was all to do with King Solomon's temple or something like that.
Yeah.
So there'd be a lot of Hebrew inscriptions on his watch, and that was always Masonic. And the handshake would give it away. They'd do a knuckle rub thing where they'd rub their, depending on what level they were. You know.
I mean, how many of the police do you think were?
I don't know. I know
they weren't all overtly.
I know that if you take things like the dog unit, probably maybe 78% were.
78%.
Yeah. The male ones, women aren't allowed to. When I was in the vice unit, I'd say a good half of the men were Masons. But I was on this one tracking down paedophiles, and it got so big. You know, it was absolutely massive. I was expected to locate 2 paedophiles in 2 months. I located 90. And it started then moving on to some politicians were mentioned involved with it, and it got shut down. And they said, right, you're off this unit. It's shutting down, but you can have any job you want. I said, well, I want to stay here. I want to carry on doing this. And I said, why? They said, well, you know, we haven't got the funding for it. And in the end, I was told it come from high up. Shut him down, back him down. And then I got told by a senior officer at the paedophile unit at Scotland Yard, you trod on toes, you know. You got very good at what you did, and they came for you.
John, this is something that actually ruffles a few feathers, doesn't it?
Yeah, this is when the problems come on board.
Right.
When you sort of lift that stone and you see this underbelly that has been encrusted into British society for thousands of years. Why are they killed? Why are people given lenient sentences? How can a well-known criminal know a politician? You know, why is it that anyone else that commits a horrific crime gets life sentence, whereas a politician gets away with it? So about power, money, you know.
Because I've heard that. Tell me if this sounds far out or not, but I've heard that some of these people, they create that Faustian bargain, and then they do all these types of satanic rituals and sacrifices. But then from that, they get fast-tracked into higher positions in the music industry, Hollywood, government, let's say. And, am I...
No, you're right.
That's
you're
kind
right.
of... But isn't there something where they do these rituals and they kind of... They tap into this power, but then a part of that is they have to give something back, and that's the...
Well, your soul goes, you know. They've got your soul, and you know, there is a trade-off. You know, you're in with both feet. And
it's the Faustian bargain, isn't it, where you give your soul away, basically?
Yeah. And quite, I read, is it Dr. Faustin, isn't it? When he sells his soul.
That's it. It's that kind of thing. And they even say it in rap videos, I sold my soul to the devil.
Yeah.
I can't remember which rapper that was.
Yeah, you mean Jay-Z.
Yeah, Jay-Z says, And they're dropping in hints through their music videos.
Yeah.
Madonna's must be some kind of absolute high priestess of this all.
Well, she... that, you know, it's symbolised by bull worship. If you look now, moneysupermarket.com, that advert,
right,
and there's a bull there.
There's a what there?
A bull.
A bull.
A bull.
Oh,
like
a bull, right.
And Baal is symbolised by the bull.
Right, oh, is it? Okay.
That's, you know, in reality, it's not a bull, but that's the symbol of it, the horn.
Is it really?
And you see this all the time, this Egyptian horn sort of thing.
Right, okay.
They do this, and, you know...
I thought it was a goat's head, no?
No, it's Baphomet.
But aren't they all... So
Baphomet.
aren't they all connected? Or
They're all connected because all in the realms of Satan. But like Jesus has his angels, you know, St. Michael,
they're all fallen
the Archangel.
angels.
Yeah, it's the antithesis. It's
right,
it's
okay,
the inversion of it.
Different flavours of the same thing. Okay,
yeah, you know, and they'll be representing different powers, you know.
And when we hear that, I mean, I've mentioned that in the past to people, and people say, "Oh, that's just absolute nonsense. That's conspiracy theorist stuff." But there's so many accounts of this now, isn't there, that it just can't be brushed off anymore.
No, this is a spiritual battle. We're in a time when things are changing. I don't need any convincing. I've seen things, I've witnessed things, I've experienced things, I've met people, I've seen people that have been in a state of spiritual torment, possession. I've had things manifest in front of me since I've been on this journey.
I don't need any convincing, and I'm not here to convince anyone either. So someone said to me once, I don't believe in it. I said, I don't care. I'm not interested what you believe in. Really not interested. That's down to you. Right? But the thing is, you might not believe in God, but I tell you what, the devil believes in you, you know, and he's out to get you. You know, there's a battle for your soul.